So now that our EMG data has been imported into Excel text file, we can now begin to prepare our data to run the FFT analysis. So the first thing that we're going to do to prepare our data is actually find out which points are of interest to us and which points are going to be of the muscle whenever it's activated versus whenever it's at rest. So to do that, I'm just going to run a quick plot of this voltage versus time graph. So to do that, I'm just going to select these data points and insert just a simple line graph. This isn't going to be used for anything. This is just how we can visualize which points we're going to want to take a better look at. So from this graph, you can see that this section right here is our strongest point of muscle activation, so we're definitely going to pick our 4,096 points from here, and then we're also going to select these points where the muscle is at rest. And this is going to be done again in this second column with that second muscle, but for the purposes of this video, I will just show you an FFT analysis of the muscle during this period of activation. So to do that, we're first going to select our 2 to the n data points. In this case, we want to use 4,096 because we want to use as many data points as possible because that'll give us the best look at what we are dealing with here. So to do that, I'm just going to, we're going to go back to home, and from here, we're going to use our data analysis. We're going to use this Fourier analysis, and again, this can only be used if you have that that data analysis tool pack run in your computer. This is on a Mac, so it already comes with it, but that's just another reason if you keep on running into troubles, make sure that you have that data analysis tool pack downloaded on your computer, and that could be a source of error if you don't have that. So in a second sheet, we have 3 columns that I've labeled ahead of time. You want to do your FFT frequency, your FFT magnitude, and your FFT complex. And our FFT complex is the output column that we're going to want to put our analyzed FFT data into. And so our input range, I selected 4,096 points beginning with 0.9028, and again that was determined from that just quick graph that we plotted. So from there, it's going to put in these complex numbers, and obviously we get this little error sign because we can't really do much with these complex numbers. So now that we have our complex number values all filled in right here, we want to actually turn this into the magnitudes, that way we can actually plot it, because if we tried to plot these complex numbers, Excel would just return an error. So to begin, we're going to multiply it by 2 to the 2 to the n data points, which of course in our case is 4,096, and then we're going to multiply that by the absolute value of these complex numbers. So to do that, we're going to use the IMABS function, and what that does is that takes the absolute value of a complex number. So we're just going to do this to a couple more. And then we're going to use Excel's autofill function to fill in the rest of that data. So then from here, we are going to want to fill this in increments of our frequency. So we're going to start with 0, and then we're going to hit fill. We're going to do a series, and our step value is actually going to be equal to our frequency, which in this case is 1,000 divided by our 2 to the n number of data points, which in our case is 4,096, but Excel doesn't want you to put in a decimal, in a fraction. They want just a discrete decimal form. So in decimal form, it's this number, and our stop value is going to be 1,000, which is our frequency. So we're going to hit OK, and what that does is that just fills in this column in those increments that we put in. So now from here you can actually plot this frequency versus, or this magnitude versus frequency, and that'll give you a much cleaner graph, and it'll take away a lot of that noise. And so you're just going to run this for that 3 other times. Again, one during each of these 2 columns during activation and during rest.